Good evening. Welcome to the big story. I'm Regina Lane.
I'm Gretchen Ho.
And I'm Sean Yao.
Tonight's big stories. The House Quad Committee postpones the drug war hearing set for tomorrow just when former President Rodrigo Duterte says he's in Manila, ready to face them.
Former police colonel and House witness Ruina Garma quietly flees to California but gets detained by U.S. authorities over a canceled visa.
And in Australia, to drum up security cooperation, Defense Secretary Gibo Teodoro says Beijing is pressuring Manila to relinquish its claims in the South China Sea.
Former President Rodrigo Duterte is apparently here in Manila to attend, finally, the House Quad Committee hearing on his war on drugs. Except there's just one teeny problem.
Well, there's no hearing tomorrow. The Quad Committee said they rescheduled the hearing to November 21 to allow the committee more time to prepare witnesses and resource persons.
Now, this did not sit well with Duterte and his former legal counsel, Attorney Sal Panelo, who say that they are still going to the Batasang Pambansa tomorrow to confront the Quad. Marian Enriquez has tonight's big story.
Wala pong naduduwag dito.
That is how House Quadcom lead chair Ace Barbers rebuffed criticism that his panel got cold feet after former President Rodrigo Duterte announced he will finally attend their inquiry. Barbers insisted that even before Duterte confirmed, the panel had already decided to move its next hearing from November 13 to November 21st. He says they had been toying with this option for a week, but only finalized the postponement on Monday. And as soon as they did, all resource persons were immediately notified about the change in schedule.
Last week pa ho, napapag-usapan namin yun dahil nga tuloy-tuloy yung aming vetting sa aming mga witnesses. So we decided na mukhang kukulangin tayo sa oras at sa araw para matapos natin yung interview namin dun sa mga gustong magtestigo.
Then came Duterte's confirmation that he will attend the November 13 hearing without sending formal notice to the Quadcom. In fact, according to the lawmakers, they only found out about Duterte's decision to face them through social media. Quadcom Chair Dan Fernandez believes that's a ploy.
Oo, sinadya yun. Ano nila, yung style di ba? And to make it appear na tayo yung umaatras sa ganitong klase ng invitation. Whereas we've been inviting him for so many hearings already.
It is true that Duterte has repeatedly declined the Quadcom's invitations, the most recent one being on November 7. The ex-president said he found it, quote, no longer necessary to attend the House probe since he has already said his piece in a 9-hour parallel drug war hearing conducted by the Senate on October 28. In an angry press conference, Digong also said he had no money to travel to Manila from Davao.
Pain ko sila, sabihin mo, wala na akong pera eh. At pamasahe ako doon. I am living on my retirement pay. Sila pa ang galit ngayon.
But today, according to his former chief legal counsel and spokesperson Sal Panelo, Duterte went ahead and traveled to Manila.
Sa kahapon pa nandito si Presidente Duterte kasi kung alam niyang hindi matutuloy, ba't naman siya pupunta rito? Ba't siya gagastos ng pamasahe rito, ng mga secure niya, staff niya, gagastos siya na malaki, tapos yung standby pa rito na matagal.
Even though the November 13 hearing is cancelled, Panelo says he and Duterte will still go to Batasang Pambansa at 10 a.m. to quote-unquote confront the Quadcom. Duterte will also apparently ask the congressman for a marathon hearing of 10 days. For News 5, I'm Marian Enriquez. We are One News.
Now, one other thing that may complicate the House investigation into extrajudicial killings, its star witness Ruina Garma apparently fled the country. It wasn't until the Justice Department announced this afternoon that the retired colonel and her daughter were detained by the U.S. Bureau of Immigration in San Francisco, California, that many realized that she was not under house custody anymore. Even Quadcom chair Ace Barbers was surprised. The mother and daughter duo were flagged by American authorities on November 7 and have been held since. Local police say it is not clear yet why Garma was apprehended to begin with, since technically she is free to travel abroad as no cases have been filed against her yet.
Wala pa pong kaso po, wala pa pong na-file na kaso. Yung mga kaso po supposedly na i-file against her and others po, particularly yung their alleged connection doon po sa Bakayuga case. I understand, since a matter of days po ma-file, so there is no prohibition for her to travel outside of the country po.
The Department of Interior wants to clarify that Garma was not arrested but detained over a canceled visa. She is also not under a whole departure order. Arrangements are now being made for her to be deported, and once she arrives back on Philippine soil, she is expected to be detained at the Senate.
Wala siyang hold departure order. She's not been charged with a crime, kaya pwede siyang lumabas ng bansa. Kasama niya ang kanyang anak na babae. In the course of the hearings ng Senate, her visa was canceled. So, nagbaka sakali yata siya na pumunta ron. Ang USINS ang nag-flag sa kanya, detained sila, and they are in the process of being sent home back here to the Philippines.
Over in Congress, the young guns are ready to fire as well. They held a press conference today in which they were asked to comment on Vice President Sara Duterte, saying the hearings are politically motivated.
This is not about politics. This is about accountability and transparency. Kung wala naman po talagang wrongdoings, bakit po hindi po sila dumating at bakit hindi na lang po nila sagutin ng issue? Dahil ang nakikita po namin dito, ang pinapupunta po nila yung mga career officials na sa tingin po namin, hindi naman po sila talagang concerned.
Yesterday, the Good Government Committee, chaired by Congressman Joel Chua, cited in contempt and ordered the detention of 4 OVP officials for their refusal to participate in the hearings. VP Duterte said they were busy preparing for the 89th anniversary of the OVP on Friday this week. The officers in question are supposedly the ones who know the most about how the confidential funds were spent. Congressman Dan Fernandez says VP Sara's shielding of her close aides is a leaf right out of her father's book.
I think the father and daughter have the same kind of personality, shielding their own people. Why? Si VP Sara, nakita natin how she protected yung mga tao niya by not letting them to attend the hearing. Dito naman si former president, sinasabi niya, me alone, it's all me, ang responsible dun sa war on drugs. I think yung pronouncement ng presidente that siya po ang sasagot sa lahat ng problem ng mga lower ranks sa ating pong kapulisan, para atang hindi po nangyayari. And this is the same trait and behavior that are not now being manifested on her daughter. So nakikita po natin yung pattern.
Kung may Davao model sa EJK, may Davao model din sa paggastos ng confidential fund. Nakikita natin yung pattern ng mag-ama, nakikita natin yung pattern na kanilang ginagawa patungkol sa extrajudicial killing at saka kung paano nila iginagastos yung confidential fund. Tandaan natin na ang Davao may pinakamalaking confidential fund yan sa lahat ng city sa buong bansa. So kung paano nila ginastos yung confidential fund ng DepEd at saka ng Office of the Vice President, binabase din nila sa Davao model.
Let's try to get some answers now. We have with us, I believe on the line, Manila's 6th District Representative Penny Abante, who's also the co-chair of the House Quad Committee. Congressman Abante, are you there?
Oh, yes, ladies. Good evening.
Good evening, Congressman. First things first, I heard you were caught up in a closed-door meeting just this evening. I wonder if you could tell us more about what this meeting was all about. Did it have anything to do with former President Duterte's threat to go to Congress tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm sorry I cannot give the details, but we're just talking about what we're going to do when we have the hearing on the 21st.
So nothing to do with tomorrow?
No, we might have just a meeting tomorrow at the People's Center. I do not know where. Pero siguro mag-gather lang kami with the other congressmen who are members of the committee.
So it's clear, Congressman Abante, that there will be no hearing tomorrow, but will everyone be around in Batasang, Pambansa?
Well, no, there's no hearing tomorrow. There's no hearing tomorrow, but we might call on the other congressmen who are members of the committees to attend for us to be able to discuss things. Kasi, it needs quite a bit of preparation. So, when we call for the hearing.
Kong Benny, what's the plan if for example, no, the former president does make good on his promise and they just show up there in the Batasan? Gulatan na lang ba or is there a plan?
Well, he's very much welcome if he would like to do that. Kahit na hindi namin alam or hindi kami prepared to meet him, okay lang. I mean, we can meet him and we can talk if he wants to.
Okay, now, speaking of surprises, Kong Benny, did you just find out also during the press con you had that around lunchtime today, nawala na nga no, si Colonel Garma dito sa Pilipinas?
Yeah, oo. Nalaman namin talagang wala na pala.
Would you know?
But I think she'll be back in the Philippines, di ba? Kasi na-hold siya ron sa airport eh.
But how are you treating it, no? Kasi, Kong Benny, you did release her. The committee agreed to lift the contempt citation with a good faith that she would go still to the succeeding hearings. In fact, she went to the last one, even though she was not under contempt anymore. Did you guys expect that she would just, disappear?
No, we have released her. Nasa kanya na yon where she would like to go. No? Wala na kaming hold doon sapagkat we already released her. So, nasa kanya na yun eh. The thing is, she already gave a testimony. Nagkaroon na siya ng affidavit and supplemental affidavit. And she has revealed the tokhang, the reward system. So, in reality, we actually do not anymore need her that much, although we can still invite her to attend.
Congressman,
if she is here.
Congressman, is it true that the Department of Justice is planning to offer her to be a state witness?
That is what Secretary Rimulya said.
And
that's a welcome development. If indeed the DOJ would give her the witness protection program, that would be good.
Do you think it's because of her safety? That's the reason why, or the main reason why she fled to the United States? Because it does sort of put a color or some doubt into her affidavit.
That would be the main reason. And that's why kami din naman, iniisip namin, if she gets released, how can she be protected? No? So, at least I can say, I'm glad that the DOJ has offered her to be a state witness, so she can be well protected.
We did hear that she was in Japan.
No, I think what Gretchen was talking about, Kong Benny, was in a previous hearing. This was like maybe a month and a half ago. She did say that her U.S. visa was canceled because she was going to California. But on her stopover in Japan, they did not allow her to board the Japan to the U.S. flight, the second leg, because of the canceled visa. Are you guys still gonna bother trying to find out like how she was able to go to the United States when previously she already said in the hearing that her visa had issues? Or papaubayan nyo na lang no, dun sa relevant agencies?
Ako nga, I was surprised nga that she even went to San Francisco when she testified that her visa was canceled in Japan. So I really do not know kung ano talaga yung totoo doon. No? Kasi hindi naman siya siguro pupunta ng San Francisco if indeed her visa was actually canceled in Japan.
Central, I think, to also this hearing is the testimony of Edilberto Leonardo, who is at the center of that reward system. Prior to him saying, or pinabulaanan niya itong testimony ni Rowena Garma, did he express any intention to say otherwise, say other things in his affidavit? Or is that a case closed with Edilberto Leonardo, or meron pa kayong pinaplano in that direction? Because I know that you postponed the hearing to November 21 because you're also gathering more witnesses and resource persons.
Na-release na rin siya eh. So actually, we do not know where he is now. No? But he already made a statement attesting to the testimony of Garma. So actually, hindi na namin alam kung nasan siya ngayon.
All the things that happened today, Kong Benny, have led us to understand that there's quite a lot of planning that goes on before you actually hold the hearing. Because you canceled the hearing tomorrow and rescheduled it for a little bit more than a week away. Can we expect anything different in terms of how you conduct the hearing? Magiging mas concise? Or aabutin na naman tayo ng, gagabihin ba na naman tayo ulit?
Oo. Hindi ko alam, pero siguro aabutin na naman siguro ng hating gabi yan because there's just a lot of witnesses who are coming to us, no? And they would like to be invited. In fact, we're inviting the others na talagang gusto na magsalita to indicate their yung gusto nilang maging witness namin.
Congressman, shouldn't we take a page from what happened to Police Colonel Ruina Garma and find a way to better protect these witnesses and resource persons para lakasan ng loob sila na magsalita dahil kung pakiramdam ni Ruina Garma na hindi siya safe, baka yung iba rin ay magiging ganun. Hindi ba natin pwedeng magawa ng paraan na magkaroon ng somehow somewhat of a protection for the resource persons that you put on the hot seat? Because we do know this is high level and very, very sensitive information that they're giving out in your hearings.
Palagay ko, the DOJ, the Immigration Bureau is also under them. No? Hindi naman siguro yan magpabaya. That when Colonel Garma comes back to the Philippines, hindi naman napabayaan siguro yan.
What about
they will be giving them ample protection.
What about legislation, no, Kong Benny, ko sa dami-dami ng mga hearings in the previous Senates and Congresses pa, ang dami rin pong mga whistleblowers na, naiiwan na lang sa ere, like sino ba yung na-stuck doon sa loob ng Lasal Green Hills for the longest time, si June Lozada yata. Yung mga ganun po, kasi tapos na yung hearing, nasa next Congress na tayo, tapos stuck pa rin po siya doon. Are you looking at maybe like some legislation to protect our witnesses, our whistleblowers more?
Well, nakita po ng mga tao that we already filed 3 bills, no? And we are still filing. In fact, sa committee ko lang on human rights, we have around 6 to 7 bills that are bound to be filed, no? So ito talaga in aid of legislation too, because there are so many laws that ought to be amended, and there are some laws that ought to be actually filed, no? Bills that ought to be actually filed. No? Kaya ito naman, we are trying to gather all the testimonies, all the documents. Kami nga, nakakatuwa nga because yung ibang mga witness is coming to us na voluntarily, no? Kinakailangan din namin silang i-vet o kausapin namin tungkol dyan para malaman namin talaga kung ano nga sabihin nila.
Coming back to what was supposed to be tomorrow's hearing, Congressman, there's one thing I don't understand, which is if former President Duterte had already confirmed, and he is, of course, the person that we all want to hear from, why didn't we just conduct the hearing anyways? I know you've already canceled it. Sabi ng other, your colleague said they decided on the cancellation before he announced his decision to attend. So nevertheless, let's say your timeline is accurate. Why not just hold a mini session anyways? Forget about the other witnesses. Have him testify anyways tomorrow.
We'll cross the bridge when we get there, no? Siguro tomorrow. Kasi ang concern lang namin, baka wala kaming quorum, no? There's no quorum. We could not be able to actually do the actual hearing, no? Pero we'll see what happens tomorrow because we're gonna call the other congressman to come and attend para i-discuss lang namin yung maaaring scenario, maaaring mangyari sa 21. If the president comes, of which we cannot even prevent him from doing that, so natin maiki kung makakaroon tayo ng special meeting or whatever it might be, no? So, we will see tomorrow na lang kung ano mangyayari.
Okay. Will you be inhibiting Congressman? Because we were talking to Congressman Dan Fernandez about this last night. Of course, you too have been implicated by Colonel Grijaldo. He said that you had coerced his confession. Will you be inhibiting from the hearing?
No, we will only be inhibiting when Grijaldo becomes a witness. Oo. Kapag siya naging witness, we will be inhibiting, and we will become resource speakers with Grijaldo.
Only when he's testifying.
Doon lang.
Only when he's testifying.
Kung nandun lang siya.
Yes, only when he testifies.
Okay.
Kong Benny, last question. Gusto ko sa itanong to kay Kong Dan kagabi, kaya lang naubusan kami ng oras. I was wondering, of all people no, that could witness your meeting with Colonel Grijaldo, bakit po yung dalawang abogado ni Royina Garma? Is that how you guys normally do it? Kasi po nagkakakulay po eh. Baka pwedeng ibang attorney na lang, I'm not sure. But what was the rationale behind, yeah?
I don't think that Grijaldo had his lawyer with him. So, syempre, magkaibigan sila ni Garma, magkaklase pa sila, and Garma told us that if there is any person that we can talk to about her testimony, that would be Grijaldo. So, kinuha namin yung dalawang abogado for them to be there, no? Para marinig nila yung mga sasabihin ni Grijaldo.
So pag nagwa-vet kayo ng iba pang witness, Kong Benny, sino po yung nag-witness usually? Yung abogado nung witness that you're vetting, or is it a third party, impartial, I don't know, attorney?
No, actually, usually the attorney is just there to listen. Not to actually coach the witness. He's there to listen, no? Kung maayos yung pagsagot o pagdet, no? Or if we need some advice, we could be able to ask it. Pero sa betting namin tinatanong namin kung ano nga sabihin nila eh. Wala naman kaming ibang intention doon.
Kong Benny, hahabol ko lang kasi nag-file kayo ng parang bill ba yun on seizing the Pogo lands from foreign owners. Did I get that correct? And in what circumstances, paano kung local po ang may-ari nitong lupa? Is that exempted from that bill that you filed?
Dalawa yan eh. Unang-una, when the properties have been illegally acquired. For example, like korporasyon yan, no? Nakita namin na puro foreigners pala ang members ng korporasyon. It should be about 60-40, di ba? Oh. Ayun, mali yung pagkakaroon ng korporasyon. So, illegally acquired yan. Pangalawa, even if it is legally acquired, but it's used for illegal operation, that can be subject to, tawag doon, confiscation ng gobyerno.
But this is just for foreign owners, not for local, possible local partners.
No, not... actually, perhaps siguro may mga amendment pa yan. For example, like maganda yung binanggit ninyo, if it's local partners and then it's used for illegal operation, anong gagawin dyan? No? So, i-amend pa namin yung iba dyan.
Paano po yung sa Pogo ban, yung bill on the Pogo ban? Because we're hearing that it does not include the CEZA, the economic zones, because we're seeing some gray areas there over whether those will need PAGCOR licenses.
Ako, sa akin, no, totally that ought to be done. Given a license by the economic zones or PAGCOR or whoever it might be, total ban talagang Pogo sa akin. In fact, the President already announced that.
Yeah. On a last note, coming back to former President Duterte, he says he wants a 10-day marathon hearing para matapos na. Would you be up for that?
Nako, hindi mahirap sa amin yan. In fact, alam niyo naman na nagkakaroon ko ng hearing from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock in the morning. Di ba? Kahit na meron na itong konting edad. We can still do that. If the President wants it, if the former President wants it, why not? Sana hindi naman to optics lang na ginagawa niya, no? Tara, totoo yan. Baka mamaya sabihin niya, joke only na naman yan.
So you would be up for it if he really challenged you to it. We're gonna keep an eye on that, but leave that for now. Thank you so much for your time, House Quad Committee Co-Chair Congressman Benny Abante.
Right up next, Defense Secretary Gibo Chidoro says China is stepping up pressure on the Philippines to cede its maritime claims, while Beijing hits right back and warns of consequences. We'll be speaking with Senator Francis Tolentino about this next. Stay with us.
You are still watching The Big Story here on One News.
In foreign affairs, there's been an exchange of words between Defense Secretary Gibo Teodoro and a Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson. Teodoro is in Canberra for a bilateral meeting with his Australian counterpart, Defense Minister Richard Marles. And during the press conference, he said that China is stepping up pressure on the Philippines to cede its sovereign rights in the South China Sea. Right away, thousands of miles away in Beijing, a foreign ministry spokesperson hit right back, warning that China may have no choice but to retaliate.
What we see is an increasing demand by Beijing for us to concede our sovereign rights in the area because of our need to explore and exploit the resources in these areas for the benefit of our own people. And that is clear. We don't need to enter into a geopolitical nexus for determining the root cause of the problem, because we are direct victims of Chinese aggression in this and in a concentrated area so far, thus far, in the West Philippine Sea.
I would like to point out here that every time a maritime dispute between China and the Philippines escalates, it is caused by the infringement and provocation started by the Philippines. The Philippines infringes first, and then China has no choice but to take necessary measures to safeguard its legitimate rights and interests in accordance with the law. If the Philippines no longer infringes and provokes, the maritime situation will not escalate again and again.
This comes on the heels of the Marcos administration enacting two landmark maritime laws, the Maritime Zones Act and the Archipelagic Sea Lanes Act, that seek to strengthen the country's claims in the West Philippine Sea. That angered China, which summoned our ambassador there, Jaime Flor Cruz. It then declared its own baselines in the territorial sea around Scarborough Shoal, or what it calls Huangyan Dao. It also named 64 islands and reefs, many of which are also claimed by neighboring countries. Meanwhile, the Philippine Navy said 29 Chinese vessels passed through the vicinity of various areas in the West Philippine Sea in October, mostly at Scarborough, Sabina Reef, Julian Felipe Reef, and Iroquois Reef. The vessels were not stationary, and they're just among 11,000 other foreign ships that sailed through the area in the same period.
It seems tensions are rising once more between Manila and Beijing, and let's dive into this with Senator Francis Tolentino, the principal author and sponsor of the Maritime Zones Act and the Archipelagic Sea Lanes Act. A good evening to you, Senator.
Good evening, ladies. Good evening to the viewers of the...
First, I'd like you to respond to the response of China to those two laws new enacted, which is they declared baselines around the Scarborough Shoal, or Bajo de Masinloc as we call it, and declared certain reefs as part of their territory. Ano po masasabi po natin doon sa kanilang
It has been ruling of 2016. So wala na po yun. Kahit ano po yung gawin nilang baseline. And to clarify the narrative, lahat po tayo lagi nag-uusap dun sa West Philippine Sea. Tingnan din po natin yung Philippine rights, yung talampas ng Pilipinas, which is the laws which we passed.
Senator, you're coming to us a little bit choppy. If you could find a better place where there's better signal.
Yes, because
Oo. Pero ito nga po, alam po natin na matagal nyo na pong tinatrabaho itong dalawang bill na ito na naging batas na nga. What does this mean from here on? How does this help us on the ground and in actual terms?
Yes.
Solidifying our claim.
Siguro po, I need 5 hours. It will help us, probably not instantly, but it will help us fortify our Constitution, the Philippine laws, and the international.
Senator, medyo malabo pa rin po ang signal po natin.
Opo, kasi may session pa ho kami.
Oo.
Budget hearing pa ho hanggang 1 o'clock ng umaga to.
Medyo malinaw-linaw na po. Okay na po. Okay, one more time, Senator.
Yung sinabi ko po, siguro I need 5 hours of your time to explain all of this.
Bullet points lang, Senator. You said that to fortify our and then maging choppy na po eh.
Yes, it will fortify our claims, entitlements, etc. And it will serve as our title and birth certificate to the seas which we are claiming and which we really own. Kasi nakafocus lang tayo sa West Philippine Sea. The narrative should also include the Philippine rights, the Benham rights, which is now called Talampas ng Pilipinas. So I just talked to Secretary Manalo kanina. Sabi ko, our ambassador was summoned by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Beijing. They can likewise do the same. We can summon their ambassador to DFA. Pero yung ambassador nag-report 1 month na sa Beijing. So, ang tingin ko, effective yung loss natin kasi nagre-react sila.
Kumbaga, hindi naman siguro nakakagulat that they would react this way, right?
Yes, automatically.
Wait, Senator, can you give me more details on how that meeting between...
There are two laws. Which law?
No, the Philippine ambassador to China, Jaime Flor Cruz, was summoned by Beijing, right? Do you have more details on that?
Siguro pina-explain lang bakit meron kayong bagong batas na ganito. So siguro the good ambassador explained that because we have been doing this for the last... these laws have been in the pipeline for the last 18 years.
And what did DFA Secretary Manalo say?
Hindi ko po alam kung anong nangyari na pag-usapan.
Pero
I'm not privy to that.
Nung nakausap niyo si Secretary Manalo, like you said,
Ang sinabi ko kay Secretary Manalo kanina, patawag din niya yung ambassador ng China sa DFA.
That would be a serious
and providing
escalation.
a copy of the law.
Yeah, but
that's not escalation. That's explaining our position, showing them copies of our laws, providing them. Baka mali kasi yung intindi nila. So the enactment of the laws are not escalatory. It is a fulfillment of our commitment to enact laws pursuant to UNCLOS.
Senator, we know that these are laws and there are violations to laws, which would mean we'll probably record more of those violations. What are the fines?
You're referring to the West Philippine Sea or Philippine Rise?
Both.
There have been no violations thus far when it refers to Philippine Rise. Pero look at the archipelagic sea lanes law. Lanes po yun eh, doon dadaan yung mga barko. So, hindi po pwedeng kahit saan dumaan yung barko. Pag dumaan yung barko doon, it will be recognized by the International Maritime Organization. I've just told you na it will take me five months or 5 hours to explain this.
Actually, nakausap po namin the other night, no, si retired Vice Admiral Alex Lopez of the National Maritime Council to try to explain to us ano ba ibig sabihin nito.
Yeah.
He did say though na kailangan pa ito maaprubahan at pagdebatehan no, sa IMO, International Maritime Organization.
Hindi naman. We're talking of two laws.
Yes.
The first law, yung Maritime Zones Law, ino-notify lang natin ng United Nations after 15 days. The second law will have to be approved by the International Maritime Organization and the International Civil Aeronautics Organization based in Montreal. The first one is based in London. Kasi po, mag-i-issue ng mga notice sa mga barko. Ang IMO po ang parang LTFRB ng mga barko sa buong mundo. Mag-i-issue ng notice, dito lang kayo dumaan pag nasa Pilipinas kayo. At pag nag-violate kayo, there are consequences.
Okay, so for that one, no, syempre aakyat pa yun sa IMMO. Pero dun sa isang law, kailan po natin ma-expect yung IRR? Usually 15 days, 30 days?
Hindi na kailangan masyado ng IRR niyan. Self-executing yan.
Senator,
Kasi we're implementing UNCLOS and the arbitral ruling.
That's correct. Actually, there was an interview quoting you that there might be $1 million in fines that could be...
Yung po yun sa ASL. Sa ASL po yun.
Opo.
Pag nag-deviate sila sa sea lane, may fine po yun. Sabi nila, paano nyo ma-enforce yan? We're not just enforcing it. Even the IMO will help us enforce it. Kasi nga, sabi ko, LTFRB ng mga barko yung IMO. Pag hindi, nag-i-issue kasi ng notices sa lahat ng vessels involved in international trade, sa lahat ng mga seaman na kailangan mag-comply kayo sa ganitong batas. Pag hindi sila nag-comply, wala silang permit, license, wala silang insurance sa Lloyd. Mahaba po yan. So, there would be consequences.
Does it worry you that China called this a serious infringement of their rights?
No.
And does it matter that they will likely
Doesn't worry
never...
me.
And does it matter that they will likely never recognize these two laws?
The mere fact that they're reacting that way is a form of recognition.
Senator, what can we expect from the new NAMRIA map? Will we be seeing there...
The new NAMRIA maps will now include the total sea area which the Philippines can have exclusive and sovereign rights, including the continental shelf.
So ma-identify po natin anong po yung rocks, islands?
Yes. Ma-identify din natin yung sources ng energy natin na ipamamana natin sa mga next generation.
Kasama po ba doon ang Sabah?
Hindi po. Kasi ang atin po ay baseline. When you talk of baseline, hindi po ang baseline po is, when you talk of baseline and you refer to an archipelago, landward po yon. When you talk of baseline and you go seaward, hanggang 200 nautical miles lang po yon. That's the exclusive economic zone. Sabah will have its own baseline.
Okay, because in
Under Republic
previous
Act
maps,
9522.
nakikita po yung Sabah, tapos sinasabi na dinadagdag lang. So I guess the people are wondering also
Masalimuot
about
na
that.
issue yata yung
iba rin
Kasi
siya.
po ang pinag-uusapan natin.
Okay. How do we, coming back to the two new laws, how do we plan to enforce them given our limited assets?
It will.
I mean naval
liwanagin
assets.
ko. Doon muna tayo sa sea lane. There are two laws. Sea lane. I agree, limited lang po yung assets natin, resources. Dahil limited lang yon, si Navy at si Coast Guard, doon na lang po magbabantay, magpapatrol na mabuti doon sa 3 sea lanes. Hindi po gaya ngayon, kahit saan lang tayo nagpapatrol kasi hindi natin alam kung saan mag-i-enforce sa laki ng dagat natin. There was one incident before sa Tawi-Tawi na merong naglo-loiter na Chinese vessel. Sabi po nila, nung in-approach sila, wala nga kayong archipelagic sea lanes, no? Paano nyo to enforce?
Question lang, no?
Sorry,
So it will provide clarity.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry.
I hope I can be given a chance to explain this lengthily.
Yeah,
I hope
sorry.
I can
You didn't complete your answer. So that's for the sea lanes. What about the Maritime Zones Act? How do we plan to enforce
What about the maritime?
Yung
We can
enforcement.
enforce it by enforcement would mean that we have jurisdiction. Enforcement would mean we can extract resources and conduct research in accordance with international law. Enforcement would mean allowing us to freely engage in multilateral exercises with whomsoever country we want.
Okay.
Kahit saan tayo magkaroon ng multilateral exercises. I hope I can teach this in a law school one of these days.
O sana nga isama talaga sa law school yan, no,
2
Senator?
semesters po ito. 2 semesters siguro ito.
Do you think, it just crossed my mind, do you think this new ASL law, no, your archipelagic sea lanes, will help prevent yung mga tumatakas sa mga backdoor? Or papatawan din ba ang sariling Pilipino na tumakas kasi syempre hindi sila dadaan doon sa sea lanes, makakatakas sila.
Yes.
So papatawan
correct.
din
You're
ng...
correct.
Oo.
Everything that you said is correct.
Okay. Kasi nung nangyari kay Alice Go.
Hindi ba mas madali na dadaan ka
Everything.
sa labas
I totally
ng
agree.
sea lane?
Sana pwede rin sa busway.
So you can charge her with violation of the Sea Lanes Act?
Oo, 1 million yung fee.
Dagdag ko lang po yung sea lanes ay hindi lang po para sa barko.
Yeah.
Doon din dadaan yung eroplano sa taas ng sea lane.
Yeah.
Sana sa busway rin, no? May ganyan.
But again, the worry there is yung how do you patrol because nga even the Air Force assets are limited, right?
We can concentrate our focus, our limited resources doon lang sa 3 sea lane.
Okay.
Oo. So,
At saka yung mga fishermen natin, makakaiwas na rin sa aksidente kasi alam nila doon dadaan yung malalaking barko. Hindi na po sila mababangga. Doon na lang sila mangingisda outside the sea lane.
Maybe we'll have you in the studio another time to talk more about
basta
this.
walang plakang 7. Ay, iba pala yun.
Ibang lane yun, bus lane yun.
That's the bus lane.
Maraming
Thank you
salamat.
for your time. Thank you.
We hope to have you here in the studio to explain all of that for that 5-hour session. But in the meantime, thank you so much for your time tonight. Senator Francis Tolentino, author of the Maritime Zones and the Archipelagic Sea Lanes Acts.
Okay, ready rin tayo para sa marathon interview. But we have to take another quick break. Right after that, a 5th weather disturbance to cut across Luzon in as many weeks is coming. We'll be giving you an update on Tropical Storm Ophel when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News.
Welcome back to Watch the Story here on One News.
Okay, we were laughing about something during the break, but this one is not something to laugh about. On to the weather now. Tropical Cyclone Nika is making its way out of the Philippine area of responsibility. In fact, it's already outside, but there is a new storm, the 5th straight one, to threaten Luzon in as many weeks, and it's coming. Tropical Storm Ophel, with the international name Usagi, is forecast to make landfall in northern or central Luzon by Thursday, November 14. Heavy to intense rains, however, are expected as early as tomorrow evening from the storm's trough or extension in the eastern section of Isabela and Cagayan. Pag-asa also forecasts the storm to reach typhoon category before making landfall. The center of Tropical Storm Ophel is estimated at some 780 km east of Verac in Catanduanes, moving west-northwestward. It is packing maximum winds of 95 km/h near the center with gustiness of up to 115 kilometers per hour.
In other news, tons of speed, adrenaline, and heart-stopping moments as Toyota Motor Philippines wraps up the Toyota Gazoo Racing Philippine Cup. The finale race weekend, or race weekend number 3, was held November 9 at the Clark International Speedway in Mabalacat, Pampanga. Car race fans all agree that this was by far the most exciting, as it was the deciding factor in determining the season's winners of the annual car racing event. Race Weekend 3 kicked off with both sprint and endurance races for the novice, promotional, sporting, and super sporting class. This season's winners were determined on who got the highest number of points at the end of the 3 race weekends. At the end of this year's season, sim racer Russell Reyes bagged first place in the novice class. At second and third were Jamil Lacuna and John Ray San Diego. This is Russell's first Toyota Gazoo Racing Philippine Cup and his first time to join the competition.
I'm just glad I managed to pull it off and win the championship. I will never forget it ever in my whole life because it's my first time. I am very happy and this is super amazing for me.
Meanwhile, Bong Garbes bagged the season's overall championship in the promotional class, while Julia de Los Angeles and Rex Abrenilla are at second and third. Alan Alzona bested his opponents in the sporting class, with Denzel Waitan at second and Jaron Besina coming in at third. And finally, in the super sporting class, Inigo Anton is the season's overall winner, with Russell Cabrera coming in at second and Red Diwa at third place. Aside from the thrilling races, fans were also treated to a drifting exhibition by Dane Cruz and Hans Jimenez using the Toyota GR86. Andy T, the Assistant Vice President for Marketing of Toyota Motor Philippines, encourages fans to watch out for more as they begin to plan the events for next year's edition of the Toyota Gazoo Racing Philippines.
We have introduced an endurance race, which makes things a little bit more interesting. But in addition to that, we also have our display of GR performance cars. We plan to up the ante a little bit, make it even more thrilling. 2025 will bring a load of new opportunities, so please stay tuned on our social media to find more updates.
Buti nilang ito yung yung nabalita rin over the weekend, si Troy Montero. Yung nangyari sa sasakyan niya.
Troy Montero? Na-aksidente.
Nag-crash. Pero naman,
it's very safe.
Wala naman siyang galos o
Injuries.
kahit kasi protected yan like may
Sa loob ng
yung
kotse may
katawan
A-frame.
yan,
May A-frame.
And then you're wearing also fireproof suit. So sabi ko nga ulit kasi nangyari na sa kanya 2 years ago.
But it looks exciting. It looks fun.
It's fun, but the Enduro is a new one. They've been doing that. But for Toyota, if they're gonna add that category, that adds another level of excitement.
Kailangan kasi medyo maraming years na rin itong
Pero nakakatuwa kasi parang nag-podium si Julia de Los Reyes. May babae. Mahirap mag-podium kasi dyan. It's a guys.
But there's more female drivers now. Case
That's
in
true.
point, Bianca, right? Bustamante.
Pero yun, that's F1.
Oh,
So
yeah,
it's
I know,
a
but
different-
still female race
parang
drivers.
petics lang pala sa
That's
kanya.
pretty
Pag-
cool,
Kaya
diba?
nakakatuwa to see
Okay. Kailangan natin mag-stop kasi kumakaway na sila. OT na tayo, but don't worry, more sports is coming up next. But that's it from the big story tonight.
Sometimes kami OT, o sometimes kayo
We are on
under time,
time.
di ba? Oh, we are one news all sides all the time.
Thanks for tuning in. Have a good night. We are on time.
And speaking of, let's turn it over. Stay tuned because coming up next is Play-by-Play with Andre Felix and Cheska Litton Calao. Over to you.
Thank you, Reg, and Sean. Hindi naman kayo OT. Sakto lang. A little bit lang, And you're talking about Troy Montero, pogi pa rin kahit nag-crash, ano pa rin.
Parang Andre Felix lang.
Thank you, Sean. Well, anyway, you asked what we have on the show. We've got the undefeated Cleveland Cavaliers headlining the NBA with their 12th straight wins to start the season. We've also got updates from the PBL All-Filipino Conference.
Plus, we've got the one and only
Yes.
Coach Chot Reyes live in the studio to talk about leading TNT to another title in the PBA Governor's Cup.
TNT hangover pa rin tayo,
Yes.
Chess. I'm Andre Felix.
And I'm Cheska Calao.
And here's tonight's play-by-play.
Ramiro